Black and Indeed. We are back, still season 5, episode 6 now. Episode 6. This is a great episode. We've been really excited about this episode actually for a very long time.
The whole semester.
Literally the whole semester we've been excited for this episode. Before we get started though, my name is Isaiah.
And my name is Luzolo.
This is Black and Indeed. Gotta shout out my man Obed over here. He's watching us live. Gotta shout out Obed. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get into our topic today, which is black love dying? This is a hard topic.
Yes,
but
it is.
It's kind of fun to talk about, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll go ahead and pass it over to you. What do you think?
Oh, you want me to start?
Yes,
oh,
go ahead and
okay. At least, of course, you can get into this question, but in terms of answering it directly, my answer would be, I don't think it's dying. I think dying is too strong of a word, but I would say that it is I don't want to say it's declining because that sounds bad, but I guess decreasing is a more like subtle way of saying it. But then I also think that because there's just a lot more interracial couples now than there have been in the past, because in the past it's been like, oh, like marry within your race, or oh, like be in relationships with people of your own race. So people had more barriers to like be with people of different races. But now those barriers, we don't really have them anymore, or at least they're coming down. So I think, yeah, so decreasing, but not necessarily dying, because I still think there's a lot of people, even at Notre Dame specifically, that do want to marry within their, like, black people who do want black people, especially the black women on campus. I couldn't say the same for the black men, but especially for the black women on campus, yeah.
Yeah, I can speak for I can't even speak for the black men. I can only speak for myself as a black individual. Me personally, I do want to, marry a black woman. I do indeed see myself long in the future with a beautiful black woman, a beautiful black queen by my side, beautiful black children, not too many children because they get expensive and I'm not trying to spend all my money on the kids, but at least 2. I think 2 is the max. I
love how you're just like analyzing.
I have to think about this stuff, but yeah, me personally, I definitely see myself having a black wife because I love black women personally. Black women are my own personal preference. But I do know that on campus, like on Notre Dame campus, there are, there's definitely some interracial relationships going on. I think we really see that with like the athletes. The black athletes, male athletes.
Oh, you're trying to go there. You're trying to go there.
The black male athletes, they really do tend to, have white girlfriends and whatnot. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with
or only get with white women.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with interracial relationships or anything like that. So don't take it out of pocket. Don't try and cancel me, but there's definitely like a strong interest there with interracial relationships when it comes to black athletes. And I think that with black students, I think it's kind of similar, but I don't think it's as heavy with students as it is with athletes.
That's very true, actually. Yeah. I think you brought up the athletes. There's so much to unpack with just that. I think when it comes to, there's so much to unpack there.
Take your time, Pastor, take your time.
Take my time. So yeah, I think with the athletes, especially like you were saying, like with the black athletes, you do see a tendency for them to only get with or be with white women, which is very frustrating as a black woman, might I say. And even like, do I want an athlete or like really want like specifically an athlete? No, not really. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but my point is that people want to be wanted, and I think black women, in regards to like all women or other women, are like the least desired to be like in a relationship with. Of course you can talk about like fetishes and different things like that, but that's not necessarily like wanted in a relationship kind of way. So as a black woman, it's like disheartening to see like people who look like me, like black men who don't want me, if that makes sense. Like of course there are black men that do, but especially at PWIs and in predominantly white spaces, you don't always see that as the case, and you see it as them desiring, especially white women, because white women are the standard. They're the ones who are seen as more beautiful. They're the ones who are the size 2 models or the size 0 models that are in every magazine. Yeah, they're the beauty standard. So then black women are, like, obviously our features are different, and that's just how we look like, but there's nothing wrong with that, so.
Yeah, and I think adding to that too, I'll never forget this. It was the first BSA meeting that we had last year, my freshman year. There was a black woman, she was also a freshman, and BSA, the leaders, they had opened up to questions for the first time, and I'll never forget this. She had asked, she said, hey, do black men like black women on this campus? Like, do black
Someone
relationships
asked that
happen?
on the plunge too.
Yeah, see,
Someone asked that on the plunge.
it's like, and I always remember that question because like my immediate like thought within myself, I was like, yeah, like I like black women, but then I had to think about it a little bit more, and I'm like, wait, there may be like other, black men.
Not maybe, there is.
Yeah, but I was like, there's definitely other black men that don't like black women, and so it kind of made me think a little bit about the dynamics between black men and black women, and kind of what we were talking about a bit earlier before we started filming was. One thing that I was saying is, I feel like the age of social media is really beginning to exacerbate the fact that. We see a lot of like interracial relationships on social media, and it kind of gives us like this perception that maybe black love is dying, a lot. There was a video that went viral actually. I think like yesterday, it went viral on TikTok or something like that, and it cracked me up. There was a white woman. She was what's it called? Like the bride's best friend, is that the best maid or?
Bridesmaid?
Yeah, the bridesmaid. Thank you. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. But she got up and she gave a speech, and the couple that she was giving the speech, it was their wedding, their interracial couple, it was a black man and a white woman. And you always know it's gonna go bad whenever a white individual says, I'm not racist, or not to be racist, but, and that's exactly what she did. She said not to be racist or anything. And she
Wait,
just
the
like,
bride?
No, the bridesmaid.
Oh, the bridesmaid.
She was giving like whatever, like the little speeches, and oh my goodness, she just went like this racist tirade. She was like, oh, I love black people. Y'all are just like the best. And no, you over there, you're like one of the best black people I've ever met in my life. And everyone's kind of sitting there like, what is going on? And then she just kept on like going and going and going. And it got to the point where like someone in the audience had to like clap like to get her to stop talking because she was just like embarrassing herself and also embarrassing like the couple themselves. And I was sitting there thinking, I was just like, I could never be in that sort of situation. Like I would never want to be in that sort of situation where, like, if I choose to get with a white woman, for example, and we go all the way in a relationship and we end up getting married, where now like the whole marriage is being ruined because there's another white woman who's like trying to make it seem like I'm one of the good ones. Like I hate hearing that, especially like coming from non-black people. Black people don't really say that. It's mainly like non-black people. But hearing like you're one of the good ones. And so I kind of want to ask, like, do you think, you obviously have a strong preference for black men. Do you ever like imagine?
Not that I should not have done that because now that makes me look bad. But I don't have a strong preference for anyone, like of any race. Like I'm open to like dating whoever. Like I don't have a strong preference anyway.
So you would be interested in potentially dating like a white man, for example? Yeah,
like I'm okay with that.
Okay, yeah. See, me, like I'm kind of different, and that's where this topic gets a little interesting. To me, and I've been asked this before, like, would you ever date, a white woman? Me personally, I wouldn't. And I'm not trying to be like controversial or anything like that, but if I'm being completely honest, there was a TikTok that I saw, and it like completely articulated my beliefs to like the greatest possible extent in regards to this. And it was a black man. He's married to a black woman. I wish I could remember this TikTok. I would put the link in the description to this. But he was given a speech. He was asked the question of, would you ever, if you had never met your black wife, would you have gone with the white woman? And his answer was so interesting to me. He said that his answer would be a very firm no. And it's not because he hates white people. He doesn't hate white women. It's because at the end of the day, he wants to be with someone who he can share his experiences with without having to explain. He wants to be able to be with someone who just, like we talked about this in the first episode, like that black ability to like read minds, to understand each other without having to say a single word. And he talked about how he had a friend who, this was, there's been so many, police brutality, like black killings. He had a friend who is a black man who had a white girlfriend. And I can't remember who, but someone had gotten murdered by the police in an unjust manner. And his friend was sitting on the couch crying. And his white girlfriend comes up and she's like, why are you upset? And he's like, well, because this black man just got killed. And she said, well, but that wasn't you, that's not you. And he said, it doesn't have to be me. I can see myself as that man. Like, I can see myself being killed like that. And she just could not.
And you have the fear that that's going to be you next.
Exactly. And she just could not, like, for the life of her, she could not understand that. And so whenever he said that, even though it's just one example, it really just made me think like, yes, I want to be able to, come home to, to a black woman who can understand like my struggle, who can understand my pain, who can understand me as a black person before they understand me as just a human. Like they can understand me, and I feel like you don't get that same feeling, with someone outside of your race, specifically with a white woman. Whereas like with a black woman, I could really gain that sense of comfortability, that sense of confidence, that feeling that there's a mutual understanding. I don't even have to say anything. You understand how I feel. I understand how you feel.
I think that's valid. I think it's definitely valid. Something to that I think about, like when I think of interracial relationships, when you look at interracial relationships, especially within the black community, a lot more black men interracially like date or get married than black women.
And we were just looking at these statistics too. So
no, we were. It's double according to the stats. It's double. Black men are twice as likely to interracially marry than black women, and I find that so interesting. I just find that so. And when you look at the context of Notre Dame, like we were talking about athletes, for example, like at least the kind of like the perception of athletes is that like really they're not interested in relationships and they really just like want to have fun. We'll call it that. A lot of, especially like at Notre Dame, I think there's a perception that like black women are like don't just want to like have fun, or like it'd be harder to like get them to like have fun, if that makes sense. So like, because black women are not like willing to be like pushed around in a sense that like maybe white women could be. So that's something I know that has been talked about, like something that I've talked about with my friends too, in terms of like interracial relationships and like, yeah.
Yeah, and kind of adding to that too. Sometimes I kind of wonder like what the reasoning is behind, not wanting to, we were talking about this a bit earlier too, about not wanting to, date someone of your own race. I kind of wonder that, and it led me to this conversation that I had with another black student. I'm not going to say the name. Yeah, we talked about this already. But I was having a conversation with a black student after a party, and it was late at night, and we're talking about women. We college students, and you're gonna talk about women, and we were talking about our preferences in women. And I said, I like black women. And he said, and I promise I'm not exaggerating, like anything, this is not made up, this is a real conversation. He said in like a joking manner that I just didn't find it funny, and I don't think anyone really did or will, but he said, oh, I like my women pure. And I said, I asked him, I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, I like white women. And I said, and I took a step back, I'm like, okay, and I was like, well, I like black women. And I kid you not, he said in a joking manner, oh, so you like them tainted? And I was like, I couldn't believe I'd even like heard that.
I believe it, sadly.
Like, I've never heard like black women be described like that. Like, I've never heard that contrast like that before. And I'm sure like as black women, y'all probably hear that a lot more. But I was shocked. And I'm not gonna cuss someone here, but as soon as he said that, I said that is verbatim. I said that is one of the most effed up things I think I've ever heard. And I was out after that because I was like, that's not like, I just can't. And there's the black male student saying this, and I'm just like, how can you say that? Like, I feel like it comes down to like self-hatred. It's like you hate
internalized racism.
And it was so it's like thinking back on it, it's so bothersome to me. Because
should be. It should make you feel uncomfortable. It should make you mad.
It's so bothersome, like, because if you like white women, like, okay, like, that's cool. Like, no one's gonna be upset with you. But for you to degrade a black woman in the process, like, degrade like an entire all black women, just to like perpetuate your interests or express your interest in white women, that was way too much for me.
Yeah,
and even if he said that in like a joking manner, it's not a joke, like, it's not funny.
Yeah.
And and I've told a few other people about it, and none of them found it funny. Like, everyone had the same reaction that we've had, where it's just it's disgust, it's disdain.
Appalling.
Exactly. It's disgusting.
100%. Something I found interesting, you mentioned preferences, and I think in terms of relationship, I feel like people use preferences like so much. Like, so much to like, especially like as a black woman, I hate the word preference because you have like some black women being like, oh, I just like have a preference for like white women, and then because they say the word preference and like everyone's entitled to like what they like and what they don't like, they see it as a justifiable reason to like not like black women. And I'm like, there's a difference between having a preference based on like somebody's character as opposed to something like their looks. If that like, it's just so I just hate when people use the word preference. I hate it, and there's a big difference between like a black person like Isaiah who wants to be with someone because they have shared experiences as opposed to wanting to be with someone just because of like what they look like and if they're more in like line with like what you perceive beauty to be, if that makes sense. Like there's a difference in those kinds of preferences, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's just very disheartening and frustrating when you have like black men like that, especially like on this campus too, because like I mentioned before, like everyone wants to be wanted, and something that we talked about before we aired this also is like when I came in as a freshman, everyone knows this, Notre Dame has like this like not ideal, but like this perception that like everybody meets their spouse here. So you have so many alums who are just like, yeah, I'm class of like '02 or my wife is class of '03 or like whatever. So I came into Notre Dame just like, okay, I'm about to find my soulmate. Like this is gonna happen. The black community is small, so it won't be that hard to find like a black person to be with, or like really just anyone, because like I said, I don't really have a preference. But then I came here. Like I knew about Ring by Spring, I knew about like kissing under the arch, walking around the lakes, and I was like, I'm so ready for this to be me. But then like I don't get approached like at all, because the people who do get approached are white women on this campus most likely. So those are the people who normally like are who the men are going to go to, whether they're black or white or whatever race they may be. So people just don't approach me. Maybe part of that is like the resting bitch face, but then also like, oh man, I did say that. My bad. My bad. Maybe part of it is like the RBF face. But when you think about like black women, often they're perceived as having that face. Like they're seen as like being more mean or aggressive or like undesirable. So it's like, so much of it is just racism, and the racism and sexism that is targeted specifically at black women. And it's just so frustrating, because it's like, why do you let like these stereotypes like gear who you end up with, because really they don't apply to everyone, and they're really just made up beliefs that like white supremacy has like implemented in society.
And like, oh my goodness, a lot of those stereotypes and beliefs, they are ridiculous. You know, one thing that I've heard is, you know, black women, oh, they're too ratchet, they're too ghetto for me, you know,
my gosh.
Stuff like that, and it's so like disgusting hearing that, because you're literally associating these words with all black women, and all black women are not like that. Like there are so many black women that are not like that, but since there's this stereotypical notion that, oh yes, all black women like that, it starts to turn people away from black women before they even introduce them. So they haven't even talked to them. They just already
like you don't know their personality.
Exactly.
Like not all black women are the same.
Exactly. Like as soon as they look at a black woman, it's all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm not gonna approach her. She's probably hood like the rest of them. Like it's so disgusting. And that also, you know, that ties into our episode that we had, you know, about like white perception, this perception in general. Like those sort of perceptions, they have to be broken down, because they're built in racism, they're built in the white supremacist ideology that you spoke of, and it's disgusting behavior ultimately. And you know, you talked about, you know, not having, you know, like black men like approach you or just be,
or any
like,
men.
Or,
I mean, just none.
I feel like it's interesting. I wish that, you know, I feel like there's, you know, a lot of reasons why we just don't approach, you know, people. I think, you know, some of it has to do with, you know, the fear of rejection. You know, I think that one thing that I will say about black women is black women are very confident and they're very strong. And I think that as black women, that can intimidate us sometimes, because it's like, y'all are so confident that we kind of get nervous when ourselves. And some of us are like straight plays, and like the most confident people you can meet, and that confidence just gets broken down. And it's like, ooh, you know, like I'm scared a little bit. But I mean, I feel like that's also what goes into the beauty of black women, you know, is that they're so confident. And
that's interesting. I got something to add real quick, if you don't mind.
Add it.
I'm very hesitant to call black women strong, because I think it takes away from black women's humanity, because black women have so much put on their shoulders. So like strong, like confident black woman, it adds to the stereotype that like black women like don't need help, like they're not allowed to be like too feminine because they're like so strong. So like I'm hesitant to say that. And you talk about confidence and how black women are so confident, but like I know white women who are confident who still get men. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like why is it a different kind of confidence for black women as opposed to like white women? See, isn't that interesting?
That's a great question.
See,
I don't even have an answer
because
for
people
that.
like people who are confident. So like, and you just said, well, black women are confident, and like, but why is that confidence different than a white woman's confidence?
I kind of have an answer to that, but I can't really share that on this show. But
we'll talk about it after because I want to hear.
But I will say that's a great question. And for y'all that are watching this, you know, put y'all's feedback in the comments too. Like we want to hear y'all too. We want to hear y'all's answer to this too.
My answer to this is it's racism. It's stereotypes that have been perpetuated through white supremacy. That's the simple answer.
Yeah, for sure. And
yeah,
that's a good point. I feel I'm kind of taking it back a little bit. Kind of taking it back. But
drop that knowledge.
okay, Aristotle got a little philosophy in there. But yeah, I can absolutely see where you're coming from too. And you know, and I don't mean to say that in a way that, you know, perpetuates the sort of stereotypes or can maybe come off as that way, but I can absolutely understand how, you know, how it can be seen that way. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say to that. But my mind is stuck on that now. Yeah, I'm telling you, I am. Like, I'm not even playing, I really am.
Yeah, something I could add while, like, you're still thinking is that, when I came to Notre Dame, like I said, like I was like, oh, I'm so ready to like meet my future like life partner or whatever, which is like so dramatic for an 18-year-old. But I think after I clearly saw that that was not going to be the case for me at Notre Dame, like of course I'm still a student here, anything can happen. I think I was like very disheartened by it, and like something that like really upset me. And then I just had to remind myself that, you know what? It's okay. Like I got life after this. Like there's other options outside of Notre Dame, and some might even argue better options outside of Notre Dame. So after a while, I think I just kind of was like, oh well, you know what I mean? Because it's okay. Like I don't need anyone right now. Like I'm still young. I still got a whole life ahead of me. So to any like black women out there who get frustrated by it, like there's a lot of places, especially if you're in college. Like college is such a small bubble. Like you have so many other options out there.
Yeah, and I would agree with that too. I had the same sort of sentiment coming into college as well. There was like this, you know, this understanding that everyone was like, oh, you may find your future wife. The only person that didn't say it was my mom. She's like, you're only going there for education. Don't worry about these women. Don't chase these women. You just go there for education, get your degree, and go. And I'm like, okay, I got you, Mom. But at the same time, you have that in the back of your head, like you do want to find like your forever. Like you want to find that. And you know, I'm in the same boat. You know, I'm not in a rush, you know, or anything like that. But you know, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't know if I'll find, you know, my significant other on this campus. I don't know. And at the same time, it's completely, you know, okay to me to wait until, you know, after I graduate, because maybe, you know, my future wife, they might be in Alaska right now. You know, they might be in North Dakota. I don't know. They might be in Louisiana. You know, I don't know. You know, I won't know until that actually, you know, that comes. But I do feel the same sort of way, and I think that it can definitely be disappointing. And it can definitely be disheartening whenever you come into college. This thing you're gonna find, you know, that one special person. Especially if you're black and you know, you want to find. If you're a black woman, I can only imagine. You know, you want to find that the black significant other, and you kind of get disheartened where you see, you know, there's other black men out here that only want white women. They don't want, you know, they don't want you just because you're black. Like although I can understand because I'm not, you know, a black woman, I can try to understand, you know, I can try to imagine at least how that would feel. And I mean, it is saddening, like just thinking about it, it really is saddening. But that is the sort of thing that we come into college with. So everyone tells us, you know, that's what the movies tell us too. You know, like we can talk about, you know, black love in movies. You know, we were talking about this before. I feel like black love in movies is dying, like in the representation is dying.
That's bad, because everyone wants to show interracial couples, because interracial couples are like the new thing.
Exactly, you know, and before we started filming, I was looking up some like movies within like, you know, the past couple of years that really showed, you know, black romance, black love, and I couldn't really find any like hit movies that like whenever I think of hit, you know, black romance movies, I think of, you know, Love Jones, Love and Basketball. Even though I cannot stand the ending to Love and Basketball.
That's true. The ending is
so
very
much.
bad. I agree.
And I feel like so many people are like they overlook the. I could get into this whole movie analysis. I'm not gonna lie to you, but should we go over the movie? Like, just in case people I've seen the movie so many times. But for those of y'all that haven't seen the movie, I'll just try and summarize it real quick. It's about these two black individuals. They grew up like next door to each other. They were never really together, but they're always best friends. And then, you know, eventually they get into college. They both go to, I think, USC together, playing basketball. And
they both basketball players.
Yeah, and they both end up, you know, getting together. It's this beautiful love story, and then they're having a rift. They separate. They go their separate ways. And here's where, like, the part just agitates me. The woman, she ends up getting into another relationship, and she ends up, you know, getting engaged. She has a fiance, okay? Now the man, he's still, you know, single, kind of just doing his own little thing. But then eventually you fast forward, and it's like the day before their wedding. I think it was like the day before their wedding. The woman who was engaged and the dude that she grew up with, they come together and they have a basketball game to decide their future.
I remember this scene.
And the dude, he ends up winning the game. And it's like, oh, well, I guess you have to break up with your fiance now, or we're gonna get married. And they end up getting married happily ever after. They have children, and she ends up going playing like for the WNBA. And I'm like, what did the dude? Like, he just got done dirty. Like, why him? But that's why I can't say the movie. But it's still a great like black love story, you know. And
it's like, one of like the biggest like images of black love.
Exactly.
Also that movie.
But like, you also have to think about the fact that came out like 22 years ago. I think Love and Basketball came out like the year 2000. That's 22 years ago, and we're still having to, you know, cling on to these movies. Love Jones came out, I think 97 maybe. So, you know, like even like before that. And I'm like, where are these movies where there's strong black couples together, where, you know, they produce black children and they just have a strong black family, they just live happily ever after? I don't feel like we really see that anymore. And like you said, a lot of these film producers, they're really starting to gear towards those, you know, interracial couples. There's nothing wrong with that, but it comes back to the question of representation. You know, like whenever we're only seeing, you know, interracial couples on TV, or we're only seeing, you know, white couples on TV, we're not seeing black couples. It's like, it can get frustrating, because like, I want to see, you know, I want to see those black couples together. Like, I want to see that, but we're just not seeing that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it bothers me. It bothers me a lot.
It bothers me true, trust me.
It bothers me so much. But man, I'm trying to think of anything else I want to talk about for this episode. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. I feel like we've.
Yeah, we did.
You know, this is something that, like we said before, like we really want to talk about this. We're so excited to talk about it. And I mean, do you have any other comments that you want to make?
I guess like for people in relationships or pursuing relationships, you love who you love. I firmly believe that. But I just want, and I would love it if people were more conscious of the stereotypes that they hold and the possible like racism that they may have, whether internalized or externalized. Just try to understand why you don't like certain women, and if it sounds a little racist, then you know that that's a problem. Yeah, so just be conscious, like always, in terms of race.
Yeah, for sure. Ooh, awesome. Another thing I just thought about this. I kind of want to talk about the colorism aspect of black relationships. I feel like there's this
proximity to whiteness is the most desired.
Exactly, and you see, like, you know, all black women are beautiful in my opinion, but you are definitely but you are definitely seeing like this increase in, you know, black men that specifically, if they're going to date a black woman, they only want like a light-skinned woman. Like, they don't want, you know, a dark-skinned woman or someone who's a lot darker.
Proximity to whiteness.
Exactly, and that bothers me too, because it's like,
me too.
Like, dark-skinned women are beautiful. Like, black women in general are beautiful. You know, light-skinned women are beautiful, dark-skinned women are beautiful. But I feel like to only date a black woman only if she's light-skinned, like you said, is that proximity to whiteness. And I think that, and that's not the case. Like, whatever. We're not saying that, like, if you date a light-skinned woman, it's only because they're close to white. Like, you could genuinely, you know, have like love for somebody. But for other people, you know, maybe they feel guilty about, you know, dating outside the black race, and they're like, okay, well, I don't know, but hey, this light-skinned woman, you know, she look good to me, and she's also, you know, a little bit closer to what I'm looking for in general, you know, with a white woman, and that definitely can lead to, you know, those relationships too. So I just want to tell, you know, the black men out there, feel free to date whoever you want to date, you know, be with whoever you want to be with, but also recognize that all shades of black are beautiful. You know, we say this at the end all the time, black is beautiful. This is what we mean, you know, black is beautiful in all shades. Don't ever feel like you need to date, you know, a specific shade of a black woman. All black women are beautiful. It doesn't matter.
100%. And when you, like, before you were talking about how, like, sometimes guys can get like a little, first of all, everyone gets nervous to approach someone that they, like, perceive to be as attractive or, like, someone that they're interested in, which I totally understand. But when it comes to, like, approach, like I know some reasoning for some black men that I know is like, oh, like they're just so independent, like they're confident, yada yada, and it's like you're projecting that onto them. Like there's nothing wrong with independence and there's nothing wrong with confidence, but for whatever reason, whenever we apply those words to black women, there's a negative connotation, first of all, and like a perceived like, ooh, I should like back off, like I need to like, and I just think we need to be more conscious of that to stop projecting that onto black women. Like, it's okay to be independent, it's okay to be strong, but it's also okay to realize that, like, hey, like we're not like soldiers that like have no emotions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's important.
I mean, black men out there, like I'm gonna tell y'all like it is. Keep it straight with y'all. If you like a black woman, approach her. Like,
yeah, literally just
approach her.
Even like if it's just as a friendly thing, like you don't have to like try to like hit it or anything right then and there. Just like try to start a conversation as friends, and that's an easy like way to just talk to somebody. Yeah,
I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and say the worst she could say is no. Like she could talk mess about you in the group chat, you know, whatever. But like approach her. I feel like black women, like, feel free to approach black men too. Like I don't know if you agree with that, but I mean, like me personally, like I find that like, that's cool. Like if you approach a man, that's cool. Nas was talking about it at the Black Images thing. You know, he got a little bit of backlash. No, I'm not gonna say backlash, but I feel like some people, they, you know, booed him a little bit, you know, but like feel free, like approach us. We can approach y'all, y'all can approach us. I feel like that's the sort of trust that we have to have.
Speaking of, I don't know if other people, like I don't know if black men feel like this, but at least as a black woman, I am always the one approaching people. And that's in general, that's
Really?
with friendships, that's with like possible relationships. Like I am always the one initiating things, and that's tiring. That's so tiring. Like I want to be like, why can't I be approached? Why do I always got to be the one doing the approaching? Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's the same thing like how you're like, guys, no matter what race, love to say like, oh yeah, I like when girls approach me. And it's like, it's the same thing for like black women specifically because we're not normally approached. Like, you know how men in general often like are seen as the one who have to start things? Black women, like, we're not approached. So it's like, it's kind of like a similar thing. So that would be my response to that. Like I understand like I could definitely do it. Do I shy away? Yes. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest. But at least where I'm at now, I would like to be approached. You know what I mean? Because it's tiring to always have to be the one that initiates things. So
yeah, I feel like I've had like the sort of opposite experience. I feel like in my experience, you know, myself and other black men, we've had to, you know, actually approach black women, you know, to speak to them. And I have no problem with that. I'm a confident person in myself, so I'm perfectly fine with that. But there have been instances where, like, you know, I'll see a black woman, you know, should we check me out a little bit? I mean, you know, I look good a little bit. You know, I look handsome, you know, so
there's that confidence.
Hey, I get it, you know. So, you know, I've been, you know, checked out a little bit before, and, you know, but they didn't approach me. And I feel like, you know, in that moment, you would approach me, you probably could have bagged me. Like, I'm not saying I'm easy, but like that's something that.
I'm not saying I'm easy.
I'm not saying funny. I'm easy, but like, you know, that's something that like that piques my interest a lot as being approached for sure.
I think everybody's just shy.
Yeah,
everybody's too shy. Let's be honest. Everyone's shy.
Shy and the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection will kill everybody.
Everyone just has the fear of being rejected.
It will kill everybody.
Yeah.
Oh my
we just
goodness.
all just got to take that leap of faith more.
That's so hard to do. It's easier said than done.
That's so,
it is easier said than done.
I realized that when I said it, yeah. I know I definitely don't always do it. I rarely do it, to be honest. But something I try to do is like inch your way there. Like just try to get a little closer. So like something could be like, okay, next time I go out, just like approach somebody and like say hi and get to know them.
Yeah.
Like it's not taking it like all the way, of course, but it's like still doing something to like get yourself to be out of your comfort zone. So.
And like you said earlier, don't feel like you just have to approach a woman to get into a relationship. Y'all can start off as friends. You know, like Lil Baby said, start off as close friends, you know, and then you turn into my girlfriend. But we're not gonna go that far. But Lil Baby said it, not me. But I mean, yeah, it's like, you know, start off as friends, build that friendship, build that bond, and then, you know, maybe it moves into some more, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, y'all can always be cool as friends. But it's always that first step, that approaching people, just actually talking to people. You know, breaking out of our shell, getting out of our comfort zone, getting over that fear of rejection, and it's approaching people. So I don't have much else to add.
I don't think so either. I think I shed a lot of light on black women, which was my goal for today. So I think I said, well, obviously not everything. I'm sure there's going to be something I'm going to miss later that I'm going to hate myself for. But I think I said a lot, so I think I'm good.
For sure. Well, we love y'all black women. We love y'all.
Yes.
As always, black is beautiful, especially the black women. Y'all very beautiful. Black is love and black is excellence. And we out.
Bye, guys.